Welcome to the Gospel Hour with David. Today we're going to be going over our Bible study of Matthew chapter 17 and some of chapters 18. And in it, today, I kind of want to talk about PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. Things that have maybe happened bad in our lives, in our prior lives, or whatever has happened in the past, could have been yesterday, whatever it may be, and yet those memories of what happened kind of plague our life. That's the thing I kind of want to talk about, is if we grew up as children, and we grew up in a home that was an abusive home, we're going to do what comes naturally to us. We're going to live our lives in exactly the same way it was taught to us. And we, as human beings, we all have imperfections, we all have failures, and we all have what the Bible calls is sin. That those things are very real, and they're very much in our lives, no matter who we are. Malice, the want to see the harm and destruction of our enemies, is always a real thing. And this is the battle. We, as human beings, are greedy. We, as human beings, are selfish. Now, where does all that come from? That comes from our upbringing. That's what we've learned in life. And that's the natural process of how a parent teaches a child, right? You must be selfish. You must love only yourself. You have to look out for only yourself. Well, anyway, we take the things that we've learned and then we apply it to our life. Now, maybe we've learned these things and now we have to unlearn them. And we have to try something new, and we have to try something different. And one of the things in the Bible is it talks about the washing of hands. And one time they even reprimand Jesus, like, how dare you and your disciples eat food without washing your hands, right? And Jesus says, hey, nothing you eat or goes into your mouth or your body, it's eaten, goes into the belly, and then is shot right out into the waste pile. But the evil and the wickedness doesn't come from washing your hands, right, or not washing your hands. It comes and it's generated from within our heart. It's stored up from within our bodies and our minds from the things we've learned and experienced in life. Why do I talk a lot about abuse? Because that's the things I've experienced in my life. Now I can tell you about how I overcame it and how I'm overcoming it every time. Because when you're abused, and there's many different forms, right? We can pick and choose whatever form we've been abused by. It has an effect on our life. It changes the way we think. It changes the way we perceive people. It changes who we are. There's an effect. There's a cause, and then there's effect to the cause, right? How do we overcome the effects? Well, first of all, that's the washing of the hands. It's an admission or a confession. And I'm not confessing that I'm a sinner. I'm confessing that what I've been trying to do hasn't been working, and what I'm trying to do has been the works of my own hands, right? I was molested. Here's an example. Could have been molested as a child. I grow up as an adult, and I seek revenge by condemning all men as worthless bastards. Many people do this, right? And they grow up and they seek revenge, and I'm going to make it my life's goal to see to it every child molester and pedophile on earth is caught, bound, and thrown into prison. Right? These are the effects, and then to say, hey, not only have I been affected, this is the washing of the hands, admitting my hands are dirty. We should be. That's the thing, is admitting I was affected. And admitting that the effect that it had on me changed my life. And even that I may have used some of the things I learned. If I was abused, I learned how to be abusive. How do I break the cycle? Well, I got to wash my hands. I got to admit that I'm seeking revenge, and that is not of God, and in that it adds to my frustration. Problems with PTSD. This is how we start, right? Listen, this is how we start our day. Every day, and we as people who are in a relationship, and yeah, I'm in a relationship, and it's a struggle. And why is it a struggle? Because I've been affected by abuse, and perhaps my spouse or loved one or my partner has been affected also. And now we got to take these two affected or broken people and bring them together and meld them into one person, and yet those effects kind of prevent the melding. So how does our day start? We start a day full of hope. And usually we hope today is going to be better than tomorrow. Or excuse me, yesterday. I hope today's going to be better than yesterday. So we start our day full of hope. Today, example, I hope to get a job, right? Maybe I'm out of work, whatever it is. Today, I hope to get a job. Now, today, by the end of the day, I don't get that job. Don't get the job. I'm disappointed because I made a plan, and that plan didn't come to fulfillment. Now, I am disappointed. I go from disappointed to discouraged. And then when I get from past discouragement, I get to, I'm flat out depressed. I'm sad, feeling worthless, feeling unvalued, unrespected, or uncared for. Then now it's time to go to bed. Wake up the next morning full of hope. Today is going to be a better day than yesterday. Again, I'm going to try and get a job or whatever it may be that I want to change in my life. Disappointed. Now, if you're a single person, you could just run through this cycle endlessly. Endlessly. Or if you're trying to meld into a relationship, once the failure starts and the disappointment comes, now the arguments begin. Why did it fail? What happened? Right? And then all of a sudden we're stuck and we're focused on the negatives. The things that didn't happen, the things that couldn't be done, or whatever it is, and we begin to fall under the devil's snare or the devil's trap. And the devil is there to convince you that you cannot, you can't do it, you can't. I can't, right? And then there tries to convince you, I won't. I can't, and I won't. I won't get the job because I can't. I don't measure up because I'm not good enough. It's completely on focusing on negative energy, negative thoughts, and negative things. Sometimes PTSD, what are we remembering about our past? Well, we're not remembering the good days. We're remembering the abusive days, the negative days, the negative thoughts, and the negative things that happened to us. That's one of the effects of abuse, is we're drawn towards the negative. Now, you go from I can't to I won't to I don't, right? I don't matter. I don't measure up. I'm not good enough. There's something wrong with me. Now we're discouraged. And we could be with a spouse or somebody involved. You can be fighting and agitating each other back and forth about trying how to figure out, why don't you matter? Why don't you do this? Why can't you do these things? And depression, right? I'm now ashamed of myself because I believe I can't, I don't, and I won't, right? I believe these things. I won't get the new job. Today won't be better than yesterday. And there I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling ashamed. And, my self-worth, my self-esteem, and my own self-value is then diminished. Now, what do I do with that? Well, as a natural human being, I try to conquer that I don't matter and all those things by continually seeking out my worth from the job or the cars or the homes or whatever it may be. Could be from social status, my friends, and these things. But then all of a sudden we're always left feeling empty. It's not good enough. It doesn't measure up. I can't overcome the depression, the discouragement, and the disappointments. And completely, completely caught in that cycle. And that can go on for years. And all of it, when we're stuck in a cycle of PTSD, we have somehow, one of the effects of this abuse or being exposed to some sort of trauma is the absence of God. Where, oh where you? Why have you forsaken me? And isn't that exactly what Jesus says when he's on the cross, right? Where is my God? Why have you forsaken me? And we all may come to that point in our life. Is God removed from us? No, wasn't Jesus and God one? And so why did God forsake Jesus or leave him hanging on the cross? In order to have a relationship with you. That's why. So Jesus says, I will never leave you, and I will never forsake you. Right? So why was Jesus left on the cross? So that he could fulfill God's promises and words. Now, I want to come here to Jesus, chapter 17. Jesus heals a boy with a demon, right? And now listen, chapter 17, verse 14, as we go through this. And when they came to the crowd, a man came up to him and kneeling before him said, Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and he suffers terribly. For he often falls into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him. And they could not heal him. Sometimes with spouses and people and whoever we are in whatever relationships you may be engaged in, we want that person to be Jesus. I want you to provide for me. I want you to supply for me. I want you to protect me. When I sin, when I make a mistake, I want you to cover your eyes and close them. When I need the door opened, I want you to open the door. When I want respect, I want you to respect me.
It's called chivalry.
Chivalry. And a good husband and a good wife would do these things for each other. But
I open the door for you.
But God, Jesus, has closed his eyes to your sin. He wants to be your provider. And in him, all things are subject to him, and he can provide whatever it is you desire or need to overcome, or to get by, or to endure, or to live in joy and live in happiness. But I can fail you. And when you put your hope in me, you're disappointed. Why? Because I'm a man. I'm not God. I am not Jesus. Who can fill the hole? Jesus. Jesus has opened the door for you, and opened a door that no man can shut. So we go to a man to find hope, and that man fails you. Now I'm discouraged, and I can't understand why this person has failed me. And it's because my hope is in something that is perishing, and is perishable, and is made and sown in sin. It can't do it. You're asking somebody to do something that God has not endowed them with the power to do. Yet, Jesus Christ has that power. And if our hope is in Him, we'll find the joy. And all of a sudden, He can open the door that allows us to have freedom from the cycle of hope, to disappointment, to discouragement, leading to depression.
If that were true, David, then marriage wouldn't exist.
Marry Christ. And if that's the thing, if we were all married, if I, the man, was married to Jesus Christ, then there'd be no reason for wifey, whoever she may be, would love me as though I was Jesus. One member in that body. Jesus being the head of the body, God, our Father, is His face. And we are a member in that body. So it couldn't work. Now, what does Jesus give us? He's going to start us with a new day, and that day is going to start with hope. And then it's going to go to faith, loyalty, love. Right? What about being loyal to God?
You're reading my words.
Well, God can speak through anyone. Are we willing to listen? That's the thing. Sometimes we're so busy and focused on what we don't have and what we can't do. Let's refocus on what we do have and what we can do. Because if we're focused on what we got, we can do anything. We can do anything. And what do we got? Well, if we got Jesus Christ, we have no limits. Now, listen. Let's go back to the little story. Often he falls, and the man's talking about his son, falls into the fire, falls into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not heal him. Jesus answered, O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you? How long am I to bear with you? Bring him to me. Right? And so when the father is begging for recognition for a son, begging for men and people, hey, heal my son. Make it so I can love my son. Because he's in a bad spot. Right? And in those days, any and every sickness that was known to man was caused by a demon. And we know today there are millions of people who suffer from epilepsy and seizures and all those things. And that we also know that today God has provided a cure for that through CBD oils or marijuana. Marijuana. It's weird, but it actually can cure people. Now, what was twisted about this? O ye of little faith, don't you believe that God loves you just the way you are? Loves you perfectly the way you are. Even in your imperfections and in your mistakes and in your inability to do whatever it is you can't do, God still loves you perfectly. Just the way you are. And you don't have to prove it. Some of us, when we're abused as children, called stupid. You're stupid. You're dumb. You're an idiot. Oh, you dumb idiot. You know, how many dads say that to their children? In my home, it was common. It's common. Right? So then you spend the rest of your life trying to prove to everybody in the world you're not stupid.
Was it common?
It sure was. Those things are common. This doesn't mean they're true. That doesn't mean that fathers can't change over time and through their lives. or any of us, but sure.
You can teach an old mule new tricks.
Well, you can. You can.
You can?
Yeah. Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him. And the boy was healed instantly. Then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said to him, "Why could we not cast out the demons?" And he said to them, "Because of your little faith. For truly I say to you, if you have faith like the grain of a mustard seed, you will pray to God." And God, and is that what the Bible says? No. Many people say prayer is the most powerful thing on earth, and yet Jesus is saying no, prayer is not the most powerful thing on earth. Faith is. Because if you had faith, you would walk up to the mountain. Faith gives you authority. And you would tell the mountain to move. I wouldn't ask God to tell the mountain to move. I wouldn't waste God's time. I would believe that God was with me and willing to use me as a vessel to move the mountain. Nothing would be impossible for you. No, I'm okay. All right? Nothing would be impossible for you. Now, as they were gathering in Galilee, Jesus said to them, "The Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men, and they will kill him. And he will be raised on the third day." And they were greatly distressed. Remember, in their day, they completely believed that the Messiah, that God's anointed one, was going to come with a fiery ball from heaven right in his hand, and he was going to destroy Rome. And he was going to destroy all the enemies of Israel. And he was going to conquer